The Fish Lady. In a splendid mansion nestled in a lush green valley, where white clouds enveloped the verdant hills, lived a lady named Nu. With an exquisite face, silky black hair, and captivating brown eyes, she embodied sharp beauty, power, and allure. However, behind this beauty lay a dark soul, full of malice and cruelty. Daily, this wicked lady took pleasure in bullying and tormenting the innocent servants in her mansion. By displaying her strength and power, she instilled horror and dread into the hearts of the servants. She frequently used offensive and demeaning language, calling the servants ugly nicknames that caused them feelings of inferiority and humiliation. Nu liked to impose her power and control over the weak, setting strict rules and punishing anyone who did not adhere to them perfectly. She used these excuses to inflict physical and mental torment on the servants. Her power and cruelty created an atmosphere of terror and dread throughout the mansion and the surrounding area. Although Nu had a dark and evil soul, she maintained an elegant and perfect demeanor in all her actions. One way she demonstrated this was by caring for the koi fish in the large garden pond of the mansion. Every day, Nu would personally visit the koi pond and talk to the fish, reminiscent of Cinderella and her talking animals. But of course, the lady did not act in a normal way, for that was not her style. Nu often brought special and delicious food for the koi fish, not to nourish them, but to use as a way to show her unique affection. She enjoyed watching the fish compete and fight for the food, and then took delight in seeing them gradually eliminate each other in their struggle for survival. At these moments, she would laugh charmingly. Nu's cruel and brutal actions never ceased, and even a minor incident was enough to ignite her anger and violence. One day, while the lady was sitting in the elegant living room of the mansion, admiring her favorite precious bracelet on the table, a servant cleaning accidentally bumped into it, causing it to fall to the floor. Witnessing this scene, sudden anger erupted in Nu's mind. Her eyes turned cold, and her face grew fierce. She approached the servant, speaking in a voice filled with fury. "Look at what you've done to my bracelet," she shouted, her tone thunderous. "Please, mistress, forgive me, please." The servant tried to explain, but under Nu's cold gaze, she felt only terror and fear. The servant's apology only fueled Nu's anger. She raised her hand and slapped the servant's face repeatedly, causing her face to swell and blood to start trickling from the corners of her mouth. "That is the price for damaging my precious item," Nu growled, her voice filled with malice and tyranny. Helpless, the servant covered her face and tried to flee the room. Still enraged, Nu grabbed a vase and threw it at the fleeing servant. The vase struck a nearby glass aquarium, shattering everything. The loud crash echoed through the room, glass shards and ceramic fragments scattered. Water from the aquarium spilled out, and the beautiful koi fish flopped helplessly on the cold floor, but no one paid attention to them. Gradually, they lay still on the floor, for fish cannot live without water. The death and violence in Nu's eyes terrified everyone in the mansion. It was not merely an act of anger, but an expression of her true cruelty and malice. But something strange happened right after. From the shards of the broken aquarium, a faint light began to emanate, eerie and frightening. In the days that followed, Nu began to feel an uncontrollable thirst, a hunger that could not be quenched by ordinary means. The image of the dead fish and the shattered aquarium haunted her mind, growing more oppressive. Day by day, Nu's thirst grew. The thirst became more severe. No matter how much water she drank, she could not quench the burning in her throat. She began to feel weak and tired, but the hunger did not abate. Then, strange symptoms started appearing on Nu's body. She began to notice small scales on her skin, like those of a fish. At first, she dismissed it as a symptom of fatigue and mental stress leading to hallucinations, wearing long dresses and clothes to cover these scales. But the scales continued to grow, covering Nu's entire body. This bizarre transformation not only worried and frightened her, but also increasingly alarmed and amazed those around her. One morning, when Nu woke up, she realized she was no longer human. Except for her legs, which could still walk, her body had completely transformed into a large fish-like creature with shiny scales and protruding eyes. She had become a creature of the underwater world, haunted by the images of the dead fish and the broken aquarium. Confusion and horror overwhelmed Nu, but with her arrogant and tyrannical nature, she could not accept this reality. With an unquenchable thirst and uncontrollable rage, Nu gradually became a fierce and malevolent creature, losing control and becoming more brutal. One day, a servant accidentally spilled Nu's water jug, triggering an uncontrollable outburst. Rage surged through her mind, and she lost all rational control. Nu lunged at the servant with incredible speed, her fish scales glowing under the dim lights of the mansion. Her hands became strong, with webbed fingers and the strength of an underwater creature, each strike carrying the weight of death and ferocity. The screams and cries of the servant echoed through the ancient mansion, but no one could stop Nu's fury. The once elegant and aristocratic lady had become a ruthless and malevolent creature, unstoppable by any means. When the rage subsided, Nu looked around and saw the death and injuries she had caused. Tears of regret flowed from her eyes, but it was too late. A terrible karmic curse had transformed her from an arrogant and cruel human into a terrifying and monstrous underwater creature. She decided to immerse herself in the pond behind the house, where she had expressed her twisted love for her koi fish. As she felt the water envelop her body, Nu experienced a strange pull, a sensation of comfort and safety. She began to feel the complete transformation occurring within her body. Her arms and legs turned into fins and a fish tail. She could breathe normally underwater, but the strangest thing was when Nu realized she no longer felt thirsty. Her heart had merged with the water. The feeling of transformation and losing herself scared Nu, but it also brought a sense of relief from her suffering and torment. Gradually, Nu's form disappeared into the water, replaced by the image of a large fish, its scales glistening in the sunlight filtering down from above. This transformation marked the tragic end of her life of malice and cruelty.